Today we will be making a crepe paper French lavender. And here are some of the tools and materials you're going to need to make these. For our crepe paper, we're going to be using a heavy crepe paper in plum, and then 2 colors of extra fine crepe paper in lilac and fern. You'll also need 1 18-gauge wire per stem. We'll also be using a pan pastel in chromium oxide green light. It's a nice dusty green color. You'll need a fringe clip, detail scissors, and then a blending brush to blend all of the pan pastel in. Any other tools and materials needed can be found in the PDF tutorial or in the post. Let's get started. Before you can begin, you need to cut out all of your crepe paper pieces, and you can do this by hand using the PDF template, or you can cut them on a cutting machine that has a rotary blade. First, we're going to start with our petals. So you should have 3 petals, and we're going to take our white glue, and I'm going to run a very thin line of glue all the way up the center of my petal. And I'm going to fold the petal in half over that glue line and set it aside to dry. And do that with all 3 of your petals. And we're just going to leave them there until we are ready to use them. So to get started, go ahead and take your flower strip, and this is in the heavy plum, and we're going to stretch this out all the way. Now you'll take the flower strip that is in fern, and it should be the same length as that stretched out piece of plum. Take that fern strip and we are going to fold it in half lengthwise, so against the grain we're folding. And just really press onto that fold. And then we're going to take the plum piece and fold it as well. Go ahead and open the plum piece back up after you folded it. And I'm going to add a line of glue just along the very edge on one of the long edges. So I'm just running a thin line along this edge, and then I'm going to fold it back over and glue it down. Now we'll take our fern piece that we folded, and I'm going to open that back up as well. I'm going to try and straighten these pieces out as much as I can, but I'm going to start by adding a line of glue along the bottom edge. So this is the edge where the 2 sides meet, and not the folded edge, which is on top. And I'm going to take my fern piece and glue one of the edges down, and as I'm doing this, I'm going to try and keep everything as straight as possible. So keeping this green edge straight with the folded edge of the plum. And that fern piece is going to end up being a little bit longer once you folded it and glued it down, because it is stretched out a bit. And you can just take your scissors and trim off the end so that the ends are even. Now that you've glued that on, we're going to flip it over, and I'm going to add glue to the bottom edge of the fern colored. And now we're going to fold that up and over onto the purple, or the plum color. Again, try and keep the edge of the fern just straight and even with the edge of the purple. Once you've glued that down, just kind of press everything together using your fingers. And now I'm going to take my 18-gauge wire, and I'm going to feed it through the purple. So the purple has been folded over, and you didn't glue it all together, so there should be space where you can feed this wire all the way through. And what this is going to do is just open that up. And then we're going to fringe it, and you'll have these nice little loops that are going to make your lavender flowers. And it's going to be a lot easier to open up those loops if you've fed this wire through. So feed it all the way through, and then you can actually kind of push it open even more by pressing the top of the fold and pressing the fern colored up towards the wire. So we'll just open it up even more. And once you've done that, you can just take your wire out. And then we're going to take our fringe clip, and I'm going to go ahead and fold this in half. But just make sure the top edge is even when you fold it. Place it in the fringe clip. And then I'm going to take my detail scissors, and I'm going to start by cutting the fold. So I'm cutting the fold, and I'm cutting just down into the green. And now I'm going to fringe. So you want these fringes to be pretty small, but not the tiniest they can be. A little less than 1/8 of an inch thick, I would say. And on your template, your PDF template, there is a guide for how thick these fringes should be. So if you need to, while you're fringing this, you can go ahead and lay that template on top or underneath, just to serve as a guide. Okay, and now I'm going to move my fringe clip down so that I can finish fringing the rest. Once you finish fringing, we're going to open those loops back up, and to do that, you can just press down on the tips. I'm actually going to unfold this first. So go ahead and unfold your fringe. I'm going to place it back into the fringe clip, and we're going to open those loops up. Again, you can do that just by kind of pressing down on the tops of them. If some of the loops need help opening, you can use your needle nose tweezers to just kind of get inside those loops and then just kind of push down. That should open them right up. There's always a few that don't want to. And then you can move your fringe clip down to the next section. And just keep moving your fringe clip down until you have opened up all of the loops. Okay, when you're done with that, just remove the whole thing from the fringe clip and set it aside. We're now going to take our 18 gauge wire and this wire wrap. We're just going to use this to thicken the top of our wire where our flower is going to be. So apply glue to the top inch of the wire. And then we're just going to start at the tip of the wire and begin wrapping. Make sure you stretch as you wrap. And when you get down to where the glue stops, you can kind of angle the wrap back up and begin wrapping up towards the tip again. And when you get to the tip, just angle your wrap back down. And you just keep doing this until you've used all of the wrap. And when you get to the end, just add a bit of glue and glue it down. Okay, now we're going to shape our petals. So go back to those petals you folded in half. And we are going to open them back up. You can just very gently stretch them between your two thumbs. That's really all the shaping they need. So let's do that with all three. Now that we've shaped those petals, we're going to add them to the tip of our wire. So take one, add a bit of glue just to the base, and I'm just going to glue that base right to the tip on top of that fern crepe paper. And I want all of these petals facing inward, so that fold is going to be facing each other, and Let's grab our second one. We're just gluing these evenly around. Then our third. Okay, so that's all 3 petals glued on. Now we can take our strip of our fringed paper, and I'm adding a line of glue just on the base of the green. And I'm going to start by adding glue only to half of it. Take your strip, and I'm going to start wrapping. So I'm gluing it just right at the base of these petals so that the purple loops kind of go up into those lilac colored petals. And as you're wrapping, you're going to angle down, but just barely. We want these wraps to be really close together so that it really fills out our lavender. Just be sure you're wrapping really tight and that you have enough glue to really hold everything in place. Okay, once you've gotten to the end of that line of glue, you can go ahead and add glue to the rest of your strip. I always like to leave a little bit without glue at the end, just so I have something to hold on to. And continue your wrap. Adding a bit of glue to the last bit. And when you get to the end, just make sure that that end piece is even with the rest of the wrap and pinch it all together so that it's really tight against the wire. And once we're nice and tight, we're going to grab a strip of our extra fine fern crepe paper, and we are going to wrap down the wire. So I'm going to start wrapping so that it's just over our flower a bit, just to get a nice transition. I'm going to wrap it a bit thicker up at the top, again to get a nice transition. So I'm wrapping a few times around before I begin moving down my wire. Okay, and if you run out of fern wrap, you can just grab another piece. Make sure you add a little bit of glue to the end of your wrap to hold everything in place. And now we're just going to take our finger and kind of push all of these loops down just to fluff it up. And then I'm going to gently push some of them back up. You can kind of arrange these petals up at the top. And the final detail we're going to add is using this pan pastel. And I'm adding pan pastel to my stem. Just very lightly dust it on. You still want that green color to show through. We're just making it not so bright. And then I'm going to add a bit of this to the flowers up here as well, just the plum color, not the petals. So I've taken some color, I'm getting most of it off on my paper towel, and then I'm just very gently going back and forth. Just to give that purple a bit of a dusty appearance. And that is your finished French lavender stem. Thanks for crafting with me today.